大家好，欢迎收看天天话题加拿大版风华资讯，我是主持人吴景。加拿大政府在近期是宣布了未来3年的移民计划不过呢是大幅的调降了移民的配额。虽然说呢有很多的这个类别是有大幅度的减少，不过其中呢还是有一些门道，甚至对于这个英文不是母语的申请人来说呢，可能还有另辟蹊径。那么今天在现场我们就为您请来了2位专家分别呢是我们King's Counsel Catherine Seth。Catherine, welcome to the show。那同样呢我们还有，我想应该也是我们凤凰卫视的观众的老朋友了加拿大领先移民留学集团的总裁Sophie， 同时呢她也是我们联邦政府呢 CICC 注册的移民顾问严丹红女士，欢迎2位上我们的节目。So maybe Catherine, can you share a little bit about yourself with our audience?
Well, I'm an immigration lawyer in Vancouver, and I've been practicing for almost 35 years, and I only practice in immigration, so that's my area of expertise.
Wow, very impressive. So Sophie, how do you know Catherine?
Oh, Catherine is my mentor. Because of Catherine, I admire her, and I think he's my model. So then I become an immigration consultant. Catherine Sass 是我的移民指导老师。我非常崇拜她，就是因为崇拜她，我想成为一个像她这样的女性，所以我才成为了移民顾问。
对，看到你们2位都是非常的专业的也是很成功的女性。Let's get to the point. I mean, at the beginning, I talk about Canada dramatically drop the immigration target for the next 3 years. Catherine, maybe you can share a little bit more with us?
Well, I guess I wouldn't say it's so dramatic as everybody's making it out to be. Yes, between 2025 and 2027, we're supposed to drop 21%. But, if you take a look at what the history has been from prior to 2016 or 2015, when Mr. Trudeau was elected, we were taking in about 250,000 immigrants a year for over 15 years. Very steady, 250, 260,000 immigrants. And then it grew very rapidly within a 10-year period to 500,000.
Yes.
It doubled the intake, all right? And now it's going to go back to 395 and then 385 and then 365. So even in 3 years when it's 365, it's still a lot more than it was back in 2015 and 2016. So I don't think the sky is falling quite the same way that people say the sky is falling. On the temporary immigrant side, we've never had any limitations whatsoever. And so I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we're all going to adjust to that. I think the real problem has been the effect of COVID.
Yes.
Because COVID changed everything. We had no workforce processing applications, but we had people submitting applications. And so now we've got this pool of people that want to become permanent residents or want to be workers or students or whatever, and we have to process those applications. So I think actually finally having some limitations is not necessarily a bad thing for anybody, not for Canada, not for the labor force, and not for the aspiring immigrant.
Yeah, we heard from the immigration minister. He emphasized, if he would rather to choose somebody become a PR, he would prefer somebody already in Canada.
Yes.
Right. So on that point, Sophie, you have anything to add? Maybe in Chinese, in Mandarin?
Yeah, 这个移民政策现在是收紧了。就我刚才我的导师讲了，他就是说，现在是这个移民政策那个配额很多，因为在受疫情的影响呢，所以这个配额现在就是降下来。但是移民政策收紧呢，并不意味着这个移民政策
就走不通了
关了。
对，
它只是说收紧减少，还是有很多，其实还是有很多移民项目是加拿大政府鼓励和欢迎的。
比方说
这个护工项目，农业移民项目，
对，
像加拿大境内的这些留学生，如果他们获得了1年的工作经验，或者是持 LMI 工签的，在加拿大境内已经有1年工作经验的，像这样的人都是加拿大政府还是非常欢迎和鼓励的，他们还是能够实现移民的愿望。
So actually there are quite a few lists. People actually can get a fast PR, even though we're looking at it probably look like it's tightening up, but there's still chances, for example, for the pilot program.
It's tightening up. There's no question it's tightening up, but it's still, there are lots of opportunities for people to be able to qualify. And there are a couple of things that we're talking about in our office. One of them is you need to have a strategy.
Yes.
And the strategy is not a short-term strategy. Maybe it used to be a 3-year or a 5-year plan. Now it's a 10-year plan, but you need to have a strategy to say, how am I going to achieve that? And then the other thing we're telling people is you have to think about Charles Darwin. Only the strongest are going to survive.
Yes.
You have to adapt if you want to make it through this immigration reality. Doesn't mean to say nobody's going to achieve this. 395,000 is still a lot of immigrants each and every year. But you may not get it as easily as you thought you might have before.
I love the term you refer to. In Chinese, we say 适者生存.
对对对对对.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit more about this Trump impact. Now everybody's having an eye on, in January we have a new president, and he has been waiving his tariff, and we're nickname calling his border czar. Saying like, oh, we're going to get rid of all these illegal immigrants, and Canada have to take a very, very tough measure. So, Catherine, what's your take on this? Do you think that will dramatically put so much pressure on Canada's side, or suddenly, we are going to have a massive asylum seekers, and we just couldn't handle?
Well, I think there are a few things that come out of the Trump election. And in all fairness, it's out of any American election. You can't just put this all on Mr. Trump's shoulders. I've seen that with George Bush. I've seen that with 9/11. I've seen that with Obama. Whenever there's a U.S. election or any traumatic experience in the United States, it has a ramification to us in Canada. But there are two different issues. One are the independent individuals who want to come to Canada on their own, and then there are the people who feel that the United States is no longer going to welcome them, and should they come to Canada. Two very different set of facts. And I think we're going to come up with different answers for that. It's not as simple as saying, oh, Mr. Trump is not going to welcome me, I'm going to come and make a refugee claim. There will be a reactive response by Canada to that. In terms of Americans who feel that they are no longer comfortable living in their own country with a new president, my experience is that when they learn what the requirements are and what is required of a person to qualify for immigration, they kind of change their minds. It's a lot of effort that is required, and not everybody is up for that.
And do you foresee there might be a surge in the Mexican application? I mean, we know there has been some change in terms of the visa requirements starting from February this year.
Right.
So basically the government take away, used to be when Trudeau was in power, Mexicans don't need a visa. Now they do, they start having to.
Right.
So do you foresee we'll maybe...
Even if there was a surge by Mexicans, now that there's a visa requirement, it just is another impediment. So things are slower. There's no certainty right now for anybody, which is why I say if coming to Canada is on your radar, then you need to develop a strategy, and you have to be patient. You have to be willing to adapt, and only the strongest are going to get through.
That's why you need the professionals to help out, right? 那这里其实刚才Catherine也提到说，其实你现在可能要有一个10年的一个准备了。
对。
那么从你的这个专业的角度，就是说，如果客户找到你的话，你可以提供一个什么样的一个 plan 呢？
就我的刚才 Catherine 讲了，他是说现在的移民呢不是那么容易，你需要做3到5年甚至10年的计划，你才可能会获得这个 PR 身份。像目前这个阶段，这个移民政策收紧的情况下，目前如果像我们中国市场想要移民的话，可能只有农业移民项目是最适合中国市场的客户。
而且非常快啊！我听说是4个月就可以拿 PR。
对，最快4个月。一般就是1年之内都能拿到。
那目前来讲说，我听说好像你的客户这个成功率是100%啊，可不可以给我们大概的说一点点这个小秘诀？
那当然是可以。就这个项目呢，它是门槛制，不是打分制，只要有2个门槛就可以。就是雅思可以过4分， 然后在加拿大的农场工作1年，对学历都没有要求。
哦，那么对英文的也没有太高的要求。
对英文是要求雅思4分。
哦，那这个分数很低了，相对而言。
对，这个项目成功的秘诀就是你要选好，就是移民顾问要筛选客户，
所以首先要先有一个 screening。
对，要筛选客户。如果这个客户，英语根本不可能达到4分的话，就不会推荐。
对，所以在初步考虑的时候，可能就先把它筛选掉了。好，那我想呢，我们先稍微休息一下啊，稍后回来呢，再给观众朋友呢，再具体的介绍一下这个农业的试点项目。稍微休息一下，稍后回来。